If you ask me who the perfect Valorant player is, I would have said there isn't one. However, I might have to give that title over to Aspas. He's perfected his mechanics, and it's incredible to see the composure in his gun duels. Along with that, his teamwork and decision making is world class. He knows when to take risk and when to play disciplined. This was shown in his match against Sentinels, where he broke the world record with 47 kills. So what makes Aspas so special? Well, I'll be covering 4 topics that will help explain what makes him so good. So let's start with his settings. This is going to be a popular topic, but I just want to preface, just because he plays with these settings doesn't mean you have to copy them. So with his sensitivity, he plays at 800 DPI at 0.4, and he has default zoom and ADS sensitivities. He also has been using the dot crosshair a lot recently. His in-game resolution is 1920 by 1080, with all of his video settings on low. As for some extra settings, he has yellow enemy outlines, along with hold to zoom on his operator, and his in-game is set to Korean. I just want to reiterate, the settings aren't what is important, it's just that he's stuck on these settings for so long. Specifically his sensitivity, I believe he's been playing on this pretty much his entire career. So next up, I want to get into his gear. This one was kind of hard to find because the link he has on his Twitter isn't up to date. There's a tweet a month ago where it kind of showed his gaming setup, and it looked like he had a Wooten keyboard with an orange Artisan Zero soft pad and the Final Mouse UL-X. However, when I looked at the match that he was playing against Sentinels, when the camera panned over, it looked like he was using a Superlight 2, Artisan Zero soft, and the Wooten keyboard. Again, the gear isn't so important here, but I do want to highlight that everything he has is really top tier. For example, the Superlight is one of the most popular mice, and it has really good technology, and it's a super safe shape. As for the Artisan Zero soft, it's probably one of the most popular mouse pads out there in terms of control pads, and the Wooten keyboard obviously has a really distinct advantage, but there's really good keyboards out there that have copied the technology. So you don't have to get these exact items, but just know that having quality gear is important. So make sure that you guys at least have like a gaming mouse and a solid keyboard and mouse pad. So let's move on to Aspas's mechanics. This is probably the most impressive thing that I've ever seen, to be honest. When I think of like top tier mechanics or like really good gun hygiene, I think of what I just saw from Aspas. So for example, the perfect mechanical player to me would probably be someone that's really good at spraying close range. And in the mid range, they're making sure to stay mobile with really good burst technique. And in the long range, they have very good micro adjustments and tapping. What I just described is pretty much Aspas in a nutshell. So what I really want to highlight here is his mid-range to long-range duels. He is very burst-oriented. When I mean burst-oriented, I mean like he literally shoots 2 bullets, takes like a micro step, shoots 2 more bullets, takes another micro step, shoots 2 more bullets. And the rate that he gets these bursts off is insane. It's kind of almost like he's matching the fire rate of a spray, but he's maintaining the accuracy and mobility of bursting. Take a look at this clip. He starts the fight with 24 bullets and ends it with 15. That means he shot 9 bullets, but just notice how mobile he is. He's pretty much just strafing in between every burst, every shot, and it's like so hard for the Cypher to actually land a bullet on him. In this other clip, he even has the composure to do this while getting double peeked. I think this is pretty impressive because I know for me, if I'm getting double peeked there, I'm just panic spraying. I'm trying to go for the spray transfer on the second guy. By staying mobile, he gives himself the opportunity to potentially get both kills here if he insta kills the Raze or if the Gecko whiffs a little bit more. And I know that this is a common pattern that he can maintain even at the pro level, because when I looked at the Sentinels match, he was doing this as well. He did it when he had a flank. He did it when he was fighting 10s. It's just like his thing. Like he just always bursts and he's making sure he's mobile. So I think you guys get the point. He stays mobile while he's taking fights, right? He's just bursting, he's strafing, he's bursting, he's strafing, and he's doing it in really fast increments so he can get a lot of bullets off. So my recommendation to actually practice to shoot like this is to go into the range, find a spot on the wall, mark it with a few bullets, and then start strafing back and forth, trying to get all your bullets to land in that same spot, and then increasingly go faster to increase the pace of your burst. I think the most important part of this skill is that it's not actually hard to do, it's just having the composure to do that in the match. But something to keep in mind is that your aim with your mouse should kind of be synced with your movement so you can kind of get it in that cluster. Once you feel comfortable with this, I would recommend you just back up into the range, spawn the bots, and then you can try doing those micro bursts against these other bots and just see if you can do it against targets that are kind of spread out a little bit more. So quickly covering the close range stuff. This isn't very complicated, but basically when he's close range and he feels like he should spray, he will spray, especially if the target's like below him, it's like a weird vertical angle, or if he's kind of like holding a tight angle, it helps him convert that kill. I think it's important to showcase that he does spray and it's okay to spray. It's just that he prefers to do it in the close range. Whereas when you compare this to other players like Zekken, Jing, or even Saucy, those guys are really good at spraying and they will even spray in the mid range. Whereas Aspas is kind of just, you know, super burst oriented. If you do want to improve your spray, I do have a video on that, so check that out. The other thing I wanted to highlight about his mechanics is that he has very, very good dedicated peaks. So this is a really good clip that I think showcases it. Take a look at how thin he slices these angles, so where he's able to insta-kill John QT, and it's impossible for Zellsis to trade him because Zellsis would have to be physically on top of John QT, like as if they were doing like an up-down if John was crouched or something, or if Zellsis was pretty much just in front of them and they lined up. You could literally go frame by frame and notice how it's impossible for him to get traded here. Now, before I actually get into how to practice this, I want to highlight that this is a very advanced technique and it's not something that you need to do every single time. Wide swinging is still very strong, and this is a very good technique to do if you think that you're going to get traded or if you don't want to overexpose. I think in that clip I just showed you, it's actually okay if he wanted to go for a wide swing. Since he had jet dash available, he probably could have wide swung, killed one, and still gotten away. So if you do want to practice this, I recommend you go into the range, pick Sage, then jump into the arena and do the Sage wall how I'm doing it like this. And then you can kind of just peek on one of the sides and then kind of work your way out. And then when you want, you can go to the other side and do the same thing. It's just important here that when you peek that you're actually ready to shoot instead of just peeking for fun. You actually have to be ready to shoot as soon as you see them, because this technique requires you to take really small steps, which means that if their crosshair placement is good, they will also kind of just shoot you. So it's almost like a reaction time test in a way, compared to the wide swing where you get a little bit of distance and pull their crosshair a little bit. So this one's a little bit more time sensitive and you got to make sure you're ready. And two other things with mechanics I want to cover is number one, his crosshair placement is really good. And I know this is a given, but I literally mean that it's so impressive. He's like moving his crosshair actively to what he thinks is the next threat. And when you watch him do it in real time, it's actually super good because you can see what cues he's using to actually pull his crosshair to the next threat. So for example, in this clip here, when he's kind of entering out of B, he notices the raise nade come out of the heaven smoke. And because of that, he's ready for the raise to swing through, and I think that's just incredible awareness, but also to have his crosshair adapt to that is pretty insane if you ask me. The last mechanical thing is that he just has single zoom on his AWP pretty much all the time. I think it's because he plays hold to zoom, so what that means is if he holds down and right click, the AWP will zoom in, and then if he lets go, it will unscope. And because of that, I think he's a little bit more focused on being mobile and kind of zooming in and out, so he's just really comfortable with the single zoom. I haven't seen him get a double zoom kill before. Okay, so moving on from mechanics, we're jumping into his game sense. Aspas being an entry duelist, obviously his entries are very important. The main thing that I saw here is that he's actually very careful on his entries. You would think a player of his caliber is he would just go really, really fast, and that's not the case. He's making sure that he's really aware of what utility is going out on his teammates and potentially any enemy util that he could get killed by, like Cypher trips. So with this example here, when he's executing out of B, notice how he lets his teammates use all the util first, like the flash goes, the raise nade is going, and then he decides to go out. And I think this is really important because, at least for me, I would probably just go out thinking that it's time to go. But he makes sure that he sees the util first, and then, you know, he decides to commit his life. After he's dashed out, I want you to notice how he kind of like positions himself and what duels he's ready for. So he sees rafters, he flicks the rafters, and then he's kind of just fighting with his teammates here. He's not like continuing scaling backside or anything. He's just staying here. He's getting posted. He's trying to punish anyone that runs through the smoke, just like the raise that I pointed out earlier with the raise nade. And he's just kind of like ready to fight with his teammates and trade. A similar thing happens when he executes out A. So, you know, in this case, he updraft dashes the trip. And when he lands, he's making sure that he's aware of flower. You know, he looks sight, and then he notices that there's potentially a guy running out of the heaven smoke because of the sky cabbage, and he positions his crosshair there. This is what I mean by his crosshair placement is incredible. But like, again, this is a huge distinction because I feel like a lot of players, including myself, might continue to scale elbow, or, you know, maybe they'll just updraft into the heaven smoke or push screens, but he's just making sure he's securing the space and he's just being aware of what potential threats that there are. So the main thing to highlight so that you guys can replicate this is when you entry, make sure you have the util, you're timing your dash when the util comes in, clear the important space like the close angles, try to situate yourself and understand what's going on so you know what threats to go for, whether you should continue scaling, whether you should maybe turn around and check those smokes or just anything of that sort. You have to have awareness on what's going on and don't lose yourself in the chaos. So once he actually does have the site, we can kind of start looking into his post-plant aggression. For this, I want to highlight that icebox round again back from the Sentinels game. They contact close A, you know, they get close and then they commence with the execute. Once they're into sight, Aspas beelines it to hell so he can get into a pretty nice forward position. Because he's in this position, when TenZ kills his teammates, he's able to get the trade frag and he's now in a very forward position going for that screens push. And then even after making the numbers 4v4, he still goes for one more because he has dash active and, you know, they technically don't have an advantage yet. So he's willing to take the risk to try to make it a 4v3. As soon as he kills John, now he just has to hold the smoke, gets the kill on Zellsis, and then he dashes away and secures the round. Another example against Sentinels, it's actually a 5v3, but he notices that he can catch this timing in heaven. So he goes up the rope and then he's actually able to get this free kill. And at that point, he secured the round. He even has ult, so he tries to get the second kill, but he makes sure to stay alive here. And one quick last example here is on his B split. He dashes to make some initial space. He kills the raise and then he falls back after getting blinded. He comes back out, fights the hell guy, kills that guy, and then he's ready for the gecko. And when he's fighting the Gecko, he knows it's a 2v2. So in his mind, as soon as he gets this kill, he's going to dash back to his Cypher to make sure he plays with him in the 2v1. I think that level of discipline to dash away in the 2v1 is super important, because then he's able to kind of play with the Cypher, protect the planner, and then when he's finished planning, they can kind of coordinate a double peek, which is what they do to kill the Cypher in heaven. So as you can see, Aspas is really willing to take risk, but he knows when to take the risk, and he's also disciplined enough to back off when he needs to. And in my opinion, I think that's what makes a really good player. And really quickly for defense, I want to showcase that he's not taking dumb fights. He knows how to take fights for his teammates or off of his teammates. Starting with the first example on split, his teammate gets contact and then he just peeks late. He's holding an off angle just in case there's a flash. And then he gets a free kill off of it. And going back into tournament play, he's playing this off angle in front B. And to be honest, this is actually, he's kind of known for this spot. I found out about this angle after someone mentioned that it was an Aspas angle, so I guess it's, really popular. So he gets the first kill here, and notice how his fade is right next to him, which buys him time to actually go for the rocket to secure the second kill. So hopefully you guys can see that, Aspas isn't just an incredible duelist, he's also an incredible team player. I think he has really good calculated aggression, and also he knows what the win condition in the round is. And by merging those two things together, along with his incredible mechanics, you probably are looking at the perfect Valorant player. So if you made it to this point in the video, I appreciate it. If you're looking to get some coaching, check out my website. Otherwise, if you still enjoyed the clip breakdowns, I would check out this video here where I break down my own clutches.